This is the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Good Wednesday night. It's good to be back in the saddle after doing some volleyball work last night and letting Clint Scott fill in for me. I am back for the High School Fan Zone on Wednesday night. We're going to start with the Tiger Fan Zone like we always do. If you're watching on TV, Jay Northcutt is that handsome. You're still young. You're my wife's age, so I'm going to call you young.
Good idea, right?
Young man down to the far left of me, and Greyson Paige. And you're a handsome young man too, Greyson. I don't want to sound creepy, but I don't want to be unfair here. We're talking to the Tigers, and I have a feeling we're going to talk to the Tigers a few more times before we're said and done here. Playoffs start this week, 6:30 Friday at People's Bank Stadium against Paso Montwood. Coming off the best regular season in Jay Northcutt's tenure at Friendship. It's kind of weird to say that we're just jumping into the playoffs, but the regular season's in the rearview mirror. You got to kind of have to think that way, and I know you want your guys to think that way because it gets a little bit more serious. Things start to matter a little bit more now, Jay.
Oh, absolutely. It's a new season, and that's the way we've approached it. Everything gets turned up a notch. You're playing the best teams from every district, and so I think you better turn it up a notch, and that's what we focused on this week.
Well, that last old season was pretty good. 9-1, won the outright district championship, 2-6A championship for the first time ever at Friendship. We discussed it. You think Friendship did win a 6A district championship, but it wasn't 2-6A. It was a different animal. It was the one that included some Lubbock schools and some Amarillo schools. This is the first one in this. All due respect to that district. This district, the old Southwest Conference, is as good as it gets in West Texas.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's why it's such a big deal to win district any year, but to be not only the outright champ, to have swept the district in 2-6A, and didn't do it easily. We fought till the very end, to get that done, and really won some really close games, and so couldn't be more proud of our kids and more proud of our coaches for the success that we've had, and we're looking for a lot more.
Greyson, he was right. You guys did fight right to the very end, like almost literally, because the offense ran about all but the last 16 seconds of the season off there on that last drive. What was that like to be out there? Because that's not a typical Friendship drive, but you guys made it look like it was.
Up front, it was a lot of fun. We ran the ball a little bit more than we ever have this last game and rushed for 244 yards. Which is most since I've been here.
I'm going to ask Coach a question here in a minute. That's a good segue into what I'm going to ask him.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. We didn't score as easy as we would like to, but it ended up draining a lot of those seconds that were unneeded. So it was fun.
So what he just mentioned there, if I saw right, I think you guys ran for more yards than you passed for. Or if not, it was pretty close.
They were pretty balanced, didn't throw for as many yards as we normally do. I think we threw for 270 and rushed for almost 250. He said 244, so somewhere in there, so pretty balanced. I know we had 28 passes and 27 runs. Greyson's always wanting to throw it, more. I have to tell him we have to run the ball every once in a while, but no, proud of the Hogs up front. They were our impact players of the week, along with our two running backs, Jordan Hernandez and Ethan DeLeon. And you get to where teams are just daring you to run the ball, and, we'll oblige them, especially when we can almost average 10 yards a carry. That's a great time to run the ball.
All right, so according to your official stats, so you can either praise or blame, 275 yards passing, 244 yards rushing. You've got the number of plays here somewhere, 59 total plays, so yeah, that's about what you said. A disclaimer there, the reason you guys didn't throw for a ton of yards is because you had, I think, 3 drives that lasted 2 or 3 plays. It was a very strange game because you grinded out a drive, you had a couple of quick ones, then you grinded out one. Greyson, when you guys didn't score on 2 straight possessions, how weird was that? Because that doesn't happen for you guys very often.
Yeah, it wasn't normal. We're used to scoring. We score quick. But, coming off the sideline, we stayed positive. We stayed in it, and we just knew we were going to have to go back out there and compete to win the outright district championship.
And that's not something I'd ask you about the other day, Jay. That showed a little bit of maturity, too. And you've mentioned the 47 seniors, but when you didn't score on a couple drives, your guys didn't, there was no panic or they didn't get tight. They just came out the next one, and then your last two drives were the two where Greyson got to do his thing, his offensive lineman. If I counted right, you guys ran for 80 yards on 11 carries on those last two possessions.
Yeah, this group here, they don't get tight. We have 47 seniors. We have a lot of guys like Greyson that have been 3-year starters for us. And I think they knew what was on the line when we got that ball back with about, 5 minutes left, a little over 5 minutes left in the game. And they just went down the field and went to work. And Holden and the guys did a great job of managing the clock. This is a team that the game doesn't get too big for them. They don't get tight. Our theme this year was a moment of truth. And these guys are really good at the moment of truth. A lot of, people in general in tight situations like that, they get tight, and they're playing a lot of times just not to lose. But these guys really play to win, and I think that's why we've been able to win so many close games.
Coach praised me for having this number handy, so I'm going to break it out again. You guys are 9-2 in games decided by one score the last 2 years. You're still young. You don't have any gray hair. But when you're in a season or you're in games like that, does it register that it's that close, or you just go out and have fun because it is close?
I think we're pretty used to it now. We know that every drive we're going to have to go out there and score, and our defense knows that they got to get the ball back. So close games is probably what we're known for, but to us, all of our team, it's pretty normal. We know how to finish games.
Hey, Maverick said something after the game that he thought that was actually good for you guys going into the playoffs because your last two games had not been real tight. So now you've kind of realized, okay, now we're back to where we are comfortable.
For sure, yeah. Going into the playoffs is kind of an eye-opener that we can't take any team lightly. We got to have every day in practice got to be our best. So it was an eye-opener.
It wasn't like a playoff game for San Angelo Central, but when you play an underdog, especially getting to the playoffs, you're playing an underdog Friday night, they've got nothing to lose. They're the ones that are making the road trip up here. They're playing the district champion. They're playing the 9-1 team. They're going to come out just kind of with their hair on fire on Friday.
Well, and we expected that, and they came out and did exactly that, and clawed their way back in and took the lead. And, what a better way to finish your season than to beat the current district champ, as you mentioned, and so Coach Smith, has done a good job wherever he's been, and I think that's a big reason why they had him ready to play.
And get them off the end of your schedule. We'll come back and talk more about the Tigers and what's ahead on the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Breaking down friendship sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back into the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I am Randy Rosetta. I'm with friendship coach Jay Northcutt and senior center Greyson Paige. I asked Coach this I asked him after the game, and I mentioned it to him the other day. It's very subtle, but when you guys are in a tight game like that and you're getting ready to score, the quarterback just catching the snap doesn't seem like a big thing normally. I'll say the same thing. The guy getting him the ball, you can't think about it too much either. You just got to kind of go through your mechanics and make sure I don't want to snap this over my quarterback's head in this situation.
I mean, yeah, in the big moments, you're thinking about doing the little things small. We say we never rise up to the occasion, but we fall back on our training, and I think that just is what our mentality is in the close games, the tight games when we have to score. So our big moments, we just fall back to what we know we have to do.
I'm afraid to even say this. But I don't remember seeing you struggle with a snap all season.
I've had a couple, but nothing like the last few years. It's been pretty dialed in.
But that's like, I know when I was growing up that shotgun snap wasn't a thing that you worked on because that was, Jay, you're probably too young to remember when the Cowboys started doing shotgun all the time. That was like a big shock to people.
I do remember that, yeah.
And now, if you don't do shotgun, it's a shock.
Well, it's funny that you're bringing it up because I'll tell you right now, we would get more nervous, Randy, if we were finishing out a game and having to go under center.
Yep.
We would be more worried about the snap, fumbling the snap than we are in the shotgun. So it's kind of, switched roles for sure.
Are you a fan of the Kelsey Brothers podcast by chance, Greyson?
I've watched clips of it.
there was an episode where Jason Kelsey, the center, obviously was talking about how young quarterbacks now struggle to take snaps under center. He used a word named grundle that I'm not going to describe exactly what he meant by grundle. But if you heard that podcast, you know what I'm talking about. But he was talking about how it needs to be pretty intimate and personal if you're going to be taking the ball up under center, and there's just not much of that anymore. It's like Jay said, it's weird to watch. They make a big deal like when Patrick Mahomes actually does get up under center on a pretty regular basis, and that's Andy Reid being an old offensive line coach. So you didn't have to worry about your grundle, or you just had to make sure you got the ball back.
We get under center a couple times a season, don't we, Grayson?
Yeah, we do. We get under a few times.
But you didn't
practice it every week.
You didn't flinch at all in that situation when you knew you had to get. And you're going from holding to. I always ask receivers this question: does it matter who is throwing you the ball? Does it matter who you're snapping the ball to, or do you even look over your shoulder?
I mean, I have trust in both QBs I've had, so it hasn't mattered to me.
So you guys clinch it with that late drive. I'm trying to find the stats that Jacob sent me. I want to go through some of your season stats before we get into the playoffs, because it's always like looking at a video game when I look at you guys' stats. You and Lubbock Christian always put up these numbers that other coaches and I know one quarterback's father in town has mentioned all the time, man, how do they do that? You can probably guess who I'm talking about. But I'm going to look at, let's see, Holden, first-year starting quarterback, finishes 219 out of 291 for 300. He missed 3,800 yards by a yard.
By a yard.
That's got to be on the coach right there. You got to get him that extra yard somewhere.
That might be on our statistician.
Exactly. 48 touchdowns, and this one's the one that catches my attention. 6 interceptions and almost 300 pass attempts.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it.
And this isn't, with all due respect to the late Mike Leach, this isn't the kind of offense that you're just throwing to the sides, and this is throwing the ball downfield as well. He's and I told you after, which game was it when I told you how impressed I was with how gutsy he was? I think I used a different word in a private conversation, but how gutsy he was. I think it was maybe the Legacy game where he's just taking shots downfield. Your offense is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not, and Holden was a guy that, playing youth football, playing middle school football, and then even freshman football, where you had to kind of wrangle him in because all he wanted to do was throw the ball up, and he was good at it, and he was good at scrambling, and then once he had a chance to really kind of step into a role in the spring of his freshman year on the varsity, he realized, I can't just do that. I've got to do some other things that a lot of normal quarterbacks have to do too. And I think now you see a combination of him being really good with his footwork, really good with his fundamentals, and then you see the old Holden when he needs to be. He goes back and he goes and does that as well.
Once in a while he colors outside the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, as you said, it gives you guys a little bit of a different feel at times. So we'll talk more about those numbers, but I want to talk a little bit about El Paso Montwood when we come back after this break. Friendship is at home 6:30 p.m. Friday at People's Bank Stadium. That'll be on Double T 97.3 FM. We'll come back and talk more Tiger football on the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Breaking down Friendship Sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I am Randy Rosetta. I've got Jay Northcutt, the Friendship football coach, and Greyson Paige, the center. We're going to jump right into it since I kind of whetted your appetite here. So I can't remember if it was Noah or one of your teammates was in here. We were talking about Coach's offense is very diverse, features a lot of different guys. I've never seen a big guy touchdown. You've been around for a long time. Have you ever seen a big guy touchdown?
I haven't, but I've been trying to work it in, but it hasn't got there yet.
He's on the lookout for one of those plays.
Yeah. There's got to be one somewhere deep down in the playbook that. And I mentioned the movie Varsity Blues. I'm giving you all kinds of homework. You need to go Google the Kelsey brothers and Grundle, and you need to look for the big guy touchdown from Varsity Blues.
I will.
And maybe we can design one for one of the offensive tackles, huh?
I think
or the guards. Guards or tackles.
There was an Iowa game not too long ago, And I don't know who their offensive coordinator is now, because it was Kurt Frientz's son, and he got a lot of criticism because they didn't. But the last time it was Iowa and Penn State, and the center lined up. He was the first guy on the line. Everybody else, it was unbalanced line, and they didn't cover the center up. So if you do that, if you snap the ball and you're not covered up at the end, do you know what that means?
I'm probably eligible.
You're eligible for a pass. So the center ran out, and he caught a touchdown pass.
So he's giving you the playbook there.
It's like 6-man football with 11-man guys. So Jay Northcutt obviously doesn't need any of my advice on offensive football. I mentioned Holden Phillips' numbers. I always like to look at your running back numbers. They don't jump off the page except for last week. And I mentioned 11 carries and 81 yards. I told you a few weeks ago, Chip Darden told me he was getting bored calling plays because one game where they just kept calling the same play. Were you getting bored calling running plays the other night?
No, not at all. In fact, when you can pick up chunks of yardage like that, 5 yards is probably the benchmark, then, to me that really means that your offense is humming, because, we set the run up with the pass, and so we get a lot of light boxes, and so we ought to be able to run the ball big like that. And the other night doing that was exciting, and at the same time, I think helpful moving forward because teams see that,
Well, and I'll throw these numbers out, then we're going to chat about Montwood just real quick. But your receivers are the two lead the city in receiving in every category, basically. Chase has 67 catches for 1,209 yards and 16 touchdowns. Leighton has 62 catches for 1,287 and 24 touchdowns. 24 touchdowns and 62 receptions. So just about a third of the time he's going up and catching the ball and figuring out how to get to the end zone. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, those stats are out of this world, and really the last 2 years with those guys on the edges, we've been over 60%. I think we're 63% right now throwing the deep ball to those guys.
You told me that the other day.
And so, there's not a team out there that wouldn't love to have that, stat in their book.
No,
that's a combination of them, being able to go up and get the balls and make circus catches, and then Holden throwing it where they can get it, But really a piece of our offense that I feel is a pretty big strength, especially with those guys out there. And I think another thing that stands out is a lot of teams will have one guy over 1,000 yards. But to have two guys that are already in back-to-back 1,000-yard years, that's pretty big. And we're going on 3 years now where we've had two guys over 1,000 yards, because we had Tate Beals over 1,000 the year prior, and Leighton. So
kind of feel like the center ought to get like a hockey assist on some of that.
I agree.
I would second that. Yes.
Knocking on wood again, because there hadn't been a whole lot of times where Holden's had to chase the ball down.
No, let's keep knocking on wood.
Keep knocking it. I don't even know if this is real wood or not. El Paso Montwood comes in 3-6, but they won their last two playoff games. I don't know if they were in danger of missing the playoffs, but the fact that they've won 2 in a row has got to get your attention a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And, they played their district champ to a really close game, El Paso Eastlake. Their district's very competitive. It's a 7 or 8 team district, so their best teams are making the playoffs. I know that's stating the obvious, but, teams that get in the playoffs like that out of a big district, they're good, And Montwood, over the years, has had a history of having success. They're a little bit different style of team than I think what we face in 2-6A. I think they really spread it out and throw it a lot more than a lot of the other teams other than us, obviously. So they're going to present a big challenge for us.
And in each of their 3 wins, they've scored at least 42 points. So right there, you're talking about in that the loss to Eastlake, it was 36-32. So they know how to move the ball. They know how to put points up. The one common opponent is they lost to Midland High 69-13. So that's, if you compare scores at all, which I never have put much value in, that's something to look at. Now, Chip Darden may want to compare scores because they played Canutillo, which is where the Pirates are headed. So that is going to wrap us up on the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. We're going to talk Pirate basketball when we come back with Will Flemons after this break on 100.7 The Score.